Hello, everybody. Very happy and honored to be here. I'm a little bit nervous too. But anyway, there we go. First, let me tell you about our company. I'm head of the scripted department. The Mensen was started 15 years ago with 5 people and is today the largest independent production company in Belgium. And almost everything we produce is original content. We built up a strong reputation in non-scripted, all kind of shows. And in 2012 only we started to produce scripted, and then we went fast ahead. And Justus already mentioned it. A few years ago, Skyline became part of our group. And Skyline is a producer of Salamander and Professor T. And we also have a small production company working in the French-speaking part of the country, Stromboli Pictures. And then, very important, to be able to produce, 2 years ago we decided to create another company within the group called Gardner & Dam. And Gardner & Dam acts as a co-producer for our other companies, because Gardner & Dam is organizing the tax shelter funding to produce. Gardner & Dam is also fit to be a co-producer for third parties. So let's check the remote for the first time. Okay. So we have created a lot of different stories in the recent past, and I guess that is why we were asked to share our experiences with creation here with you. But of course, like we all know, we don't have a magic formula for that. I'm sorry. We all know that the creative process is a painful, tiring, embarrassing sequence of tryouts, disillusions, even depression, insomnia, and domestic fights, hard work. It's a little bit dramatic maybe, but it's just the way it is. But anyway, what we can do is analyze the process afterwards. And I will try to do that with you for 3 of our series. The first one is Beau Séjour. And this is a series with which we tried to twist around the classic genre, the whodunit. Then we have Generation B. And we wanted to do something with it, but we only found out what that was during the process. And then we have Team Chocolate, which is a romantic road movie. And this idea just started with the dream of 2 directors of working with a bunch of very special actors. So what I'm going to do is to analyze the creative process afterwards and to tell you what worked out. But of course, we made a lot of mistakes. Often we were in deep trouble. And about that, I'm not going to tell you a lot because that will be a waste of time. So, Beau Séjour. Let's begin with the story. We have 19-year-old Cato. Oh, I have to change this slide too. Sorry, okay. She wakes up in a hotel room, covered in blood, and she sees her dead body lying in the bath. But maybe I should just show you the trailer, and then you will have an idea of the story. So we had a budget of 5 million euros, and we produced 10 episodes, and it's airing right now on the public channel 1 in Belgium. We were very nervous for the launching, because for this audience of this channel, it's quite a challenging concept. But I'm happy to tell you that the 5th episode last Sunday got over 50% market share. And half the country is now looking for Cato's killer. So for that, of course, I thank our creative team, 2 brilliant young writers, Bert and Sanne, and we have 2 very special ladies directing the series, Nathalie Bastijns and Kaat Beels. But how did it start? It started with Nathalie, one of the directors, taking us to an old hotel, Hotel Beau Séjour, where she used to go with her father. It's a very inspiring location, and she said, okay guys, wouldn't it be nice and cool to have a girl killed in this hotel? And the others went, okay, it's pretty cool, but in fact, none of us, nobody in the creative team felt like making a classic whodunit. But instead of going home and do something else, the writers started brainstorming and deliberately turning around the classic elements of a whodunit. And that's how they came up with a new twist. Just by turning things around, what if you have a victim that finds herself alive? And the interesting thing about this idea is the way that this influences the story of the investigation. Because it's about gathering and checking information, of course. And the victim becomes an active participant, because Cato knows things, she carries information, she's still alive in a certain way. So she can collect information too, and the best part, as soon as she discovers that some people still can see her and talk to her, she can share that information. So before I go on, I want to show you a clip about collecting information, and you should know that Cato, she doesn't remember anything about the last 24 hours before she died. Okay. So, this was our great idea, but the idea, of course, made us struggle big time with the whodunit genre, because it turned out that it was very, very difficult for us to know when to choose which point of view. Should Cato be in the scene or not? Should we watch the scene together with her? Should she be present without being noticed, maybe not even by the viewer? So this caused us big trouble and a lot of discussions. And after a while, the writers came up with a system to help us answering all those questions and to put an end to these numerous discussions. So the writers said that, okay, each key scene should be about 3 questions, either in a direct way or implicitly. And these questions you see here: who is Cato's killer? Why is she killed? And very important, why are there seers? So working with these questions, developing the story, very soon it became clear that the third question, of course, is the main question. And also the thing that makes Beau Séjour, we think, different from a classic whodunit. Why are there seers? There are only 5 people that can see Cato and talk to her. And of course, this is not a random thing. There's a reason for that. It's about secrets, obviously. Probably it's about guilt. The seers are her father, her stepsister, her best friend, a local police officer, and his son, whom she apparently met and kissed with the night she died. So this immediately makes Cato important and active, because she has to explore her own life, her own history, and her own relationships. But of course, what came with that was that telling all this in a script takes a lot of time. You need a lot of scenes to tell all these things about these relationships and this history. And that makes Beau Séjour even more different from what we think from a classic whodunit, because there are relatively little whodunit plots per episode, because there's simply no time for that. But we thought that we could do it that way. So, obviously we found out that this question, why are there seers, the third question, is really the engine of the story. So it left the writers no other choice than to focus on these characters, and not mainly on classic whodunit clues. So we have Cato and the 5 sceners, but this turned out to be a brilliant way to make backstories really relevant. Backstories were not created just to add some soapy drama to the series. They are really, really relevant. All these characters have to dig deep to find out why they are seers, and all these reasons are connected with the case, who killed Cato. So working with the third question gives, in the end, the answer to the first question, who killed Cato? So I just want to show you another clip where you can see this mechanism. It's from the very beginning of the series. So this is where you see that these characters start to find out the story where they ended up in, and you can feel a little bit that they start sensing that maybe it's not a coincidence that they are seers. We will see Cato attending her own funeral, which is a cool fantasy we all had, no? Okay, that was Beau Séjour. Now I want to tell you about Generation B, and this is something completely different. I think this is an interesting example because it's all about patience and progressive insight, this creative process. It took us literally years and years to realize that a scripted show was probably the right way to do something with this idea. I'm just first going to show you a trailer. Okay, so this is not for a broad primetime family audience. It's an absurd satirical comedy, very low budget, as you see. We produced it for Canvas, which is the smaller public channel with a focus on information, culture, and science. We only had 33 shooting days, and we also had 2 very talented but very stubborn and unique guys creating this show, Joost and Peter. So how did this start, and why am I talking about patience and creative insight? The trailer I showed you is 1 month old, but it took 8 years to realize what to do with these themes and ideas about young people in a city facing a difficult future. So it all started with a book that Joost wrote in 2009, and it was just 10 short stories about the near future of young people in the city. And 1 year after that, he created a very weird stand-up performance based on this book. It was all rather insane, but pretty interesting. And then the idea came up, together with us, to make a mockumentary series that would present these dark and crazy ideas about the future as real facts. So we invented fake news, which is now really trending. So we thought, okay, this is brilliant, and we convinced the broadcaster and the film fund to give us some money to produce a pilot. And the team worked very hard on it, but it was rejected because it was too expensive for the documentary slot, and probably it was just too crappy. It was just not good. So that was supposed to be game over. But then, luckily, Joost and Peter turned out to be even more stubborn. And they did what I think was the most important thing in this process. They just held on to their gut feel that a story had to be told about these themes. So, this is, I think, 4 years after Joost wrote the book, was the first moment that they started thinking together with us of making a scripted series. But then we had a big problem, because in the book and in the show there were no dramatic elements. But of course the insight that in scripted you can make anything happen was the rescue, because then came the idea to add a revolution, not just to tell them this is going on with these people, but we could really give these young people an opportunity to start a war and to stand up for themselves. And then they started writing for almost 2 years, and then another crazy thing happened. It was proven that Joost has visionary talents, because a lot of things that he already invented in the story became reality during the writing process, which makes this show very relevant. Everybody knows about the bank crisis. During the writing process, we got a right-wing government in Belgium. Unemployed people were blamed for all the problems. After the attacks, we had the Brussels lockdown, and this was after we wrote scripts where we invented that soldiers, the army, would go into the streets. Of course, the refugees are big news now. And as I already told you, maybe we could add false news. So. But anyway, that's how we ended up with an absurd satirical comedy, because reality took us over, and we had to make what we invented more and more extreme. So that's why it became an absurd satirical show. And that's how the Generation Liberation Army was born. Oh, sorry, I forgot to change the slide. Okay. This was the previous one, and this is this one, the logo of the Generation Liberation Army. So, one of the attacks that the Generation Liberation Army organizes is based on the idea, the crazy idea, that age is a reason to have the power and the money. So in the next clip, you can see that the GLA is hacking a bank, spreading the false news that the bank will reward age by giving free shares to baby boomers and older people. Let's just watch the clip. Okay, so you notice that's very typical in satirical comedy, is that you have to exaggerate and reverse. Of course, you have to decide what to reverse, and the idea of the writers, after trying a lot of other stuff, was to present a white 20-somethings with a degree, or many degrees, as a new minority. And that really became the engine that boosted the writing. And I just want to show you another clip, because clips are more interesting than me talking. In the next clip, we can see Jonas and his friend Lisa at the birthday party of his grandfather. And they are broke, and their mission is to ask Jonas' parents for money to finance the revolution. But of course, these baby boomers, they are all ex-hippies, have become capitalists, and they don't want to share what they have. So, to end my story about Generation B, I just want to talk about how the creative team decided how this series should look. They just invented a slogan, and it was "a city to hide and to stay out of sight." And Peter also came up with the expression night shop chic to inspire the art department. Everything was filmed in Brussels, so we used existing locations as much as possible. And if you look around in Brussels, you can find a lot of places that look a bit post-revolutionary. But still, it's an exciting city. And we recycled a lot. Almost everything you see in the scenes, all the stuff, the props, are recycled goods. And this is not only an artistic choice, but also an economical choice. And we even recycled actors, as you noticed. At least there's one actor who plays different roles in each episode. That's not a gimmick. It was really a budget decision. But that's the freedom you can claim for yourself when you make satirical comedy. And Generation B will be launched in Belgium next week. On to something completely different now. Team Chocolate, or originally Tit Chocolate. This is a romantic road movie, and this really is a family show. And shooting it even took us to Germany and Kosovo. It's 7 episodes of 5 minutes, 80 shooting days. And before I continue, I want to show you the trailer explaining the story a little bit. Okay, obviously the challenge and the secret is in the actors. They are unique, very talented and difficult to work with, like many actors. All these guys have Down syndrome and they work at a professional theater called Stop. And the artistic director of this theater, together with a documentary maker, they had a dream of creating a drama series about the real desires of these people, to be respected like everybody else, to have a love life, to be independent. So when we were thinking about how to do this, we thought that it was obvious to write for these guys like normal actors, because that was exactly what they wanted. But many people gave us advice, and they did not believe that this was doable. And many people gave us the advice just to let these actors improvise, to shoot it with many, many cameras, and try to edit scenes out of it. And then we were thinking about that. But the creators, they told us, no, we have to stick to the plan. We have to trust these actors in their ability to rehearse scenes and to repeat them on set. But of course, that's easier said than done. So what we decided to do was, very, very early in the writing process, we started to rehearse with the actors, and we shaped all the characters based on the real emotions and history and characters of these actors. So everything that happened during rehearsal could be integrated in the script. And of course, we had to do a lot of rewriting, but that was the only way. So I will show you one clip with a small example. The actor who plays Cedric in real life is a guy that finds that rules, systems, and discipline are very, very important. And he gave us a spontaneous reaction during rehearsal, straight from his heart, and that was included in the script, and you will see it at the end of the next scene. So, they were able to repeat it on set. A second important insight that the writers-directors had pretty early in the creative process was that this should not be like a social project. Let's give these guys an opportunity to do some acting. No, we really wanted to make a full-fledged drama series. So we were very, very demanding towards these actors. It was very heavy for them. And that was exactly the way they wanted to be treated in order to perform well on set. They all want to be adults and to be treated like adults, and they are adults. So, in fact, that issue is the backbone of the whole story of the series. And I just want to show you one more clip that comes from the behind-the-scenes documentary that we will launch as the 8th and last episode. And you will see one of the two directors, Mark Breisink, who is already for many years the creative director of this theater. So he knows them very well. It's important that you know that, because here you can see that he's very demanding. And I also can advise everybody, if you do a special show and you like the process and you love it, try to shoot a making of, because it's fun. Okay, Team Chocolate will air in Belgium on the public channel in September. And that was what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.